Hey, good morning. And I'm welcoming you to this today's project on Stronger Futures Project. And what the idea behind this is creating a compelling and um, intrinsic inside of ourself motivation to become all that we're designed to be. And I'm waiting on my co-host to show up. And here she comes right now.
Hey,
Good
Stanley.
morning. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I am good. How are you?
Fantastic. Fantastic. I'm not sure why you did not get that link, but in any event, hey, we are here and I'm excited. And I just decided that, hey, I better get this thing going. And I knew you were going to show up. So, in any event, I'm excited about today's topic about creating a stronger future. And this is a project that is a lifelong experience. And the premise is we don't know what we don't know. So as we get ready for this, I am going to pull up my chat, which I had put a link into. Let's see here. So bear with me here. Okay. All right. We've got a couple questions asking if we've started, and yes. Okay. So I'm going to put this in on my screen. And this is the Zoom link that you are going to be invited to come into and join us for an interactive call. And I believe that this will not show up on LinkedIn and it will not show up on Facebook. So I just want to put that out there. I'll keep that up for a little bit. That way you can kind of write that down, type that into your browser, and that way you can join us at 11:30 as we go forward.
And I'm just going to mention, Stanley, because I think we ended up with 2 LinkedIn events. And there's a couple of comments here that say that link goes to a blank page with no comments. So I am just going to take the link for this one and put it in the chat for the other one in case people are I'm not sure what. I think that was just a tech glitch, but we'll make sure that everybody has where we are currently live.
And that was for the restream itself?
I don't know. It was like on LinkedIn, there are 2 events for the same time slot. Yeah.
All right. Well, here's the thing about creating a compelling and a stronger future. You are going to have blurbs. Okay. You're going to have days where just when you think you're at the threshold of having everything go right and go your way, you're going to have resistance. And that's the part of growth. So I really want to bring that point up, is that whenever you're preparing to execute something new, you're going to have resistance, but that's where the growth comes in. And that's what creates a compelling future and creating strength. I mean, there's no muscle that's developed without resistance. None, zero. And, imagine talking to your 9-month-old self. And if you fall, what would you tell your 9-month-old self? Oh, just stay down on the floor. You're never going to walk anyway. I mean, look how many times you've tried, right? So this is the idea behind creating a compelling, stronger future. And resistance is part of it. So you know that when you're getting resistance, you're on the right path. If you're not, I would say watch out, because then there is a problem there. So with that in mind, thank you.
With that in mind, this is how we explain away technical difficulties.
Yeah. So we are 4 minutes into this, and I really want to dive into this, Tracy, because the idea that has come to fruition here with this is because it is in our conversations that new things come up, and new things in the respect that things that we don't even know that we don't even know. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your experience with that and what excites you about what this is all about?
I mean, how long do you want me to talk for? Because I think this is okay. So I want to just start with like my introduction to the world of what most people call personal development, which happened about 10 years ago with a program called the Landmark Forum. And it was my first experience. Okay, Jill made it. We got it figured out.
All
Um,
right.
it was the first time I really thought about this concept of the things I don't know, I don't know. And while there's so many things, actually, I even had an interesting conversation with Nicholas the other day about like, what do you think mommy doesn't know? Because there's a lot. I mean, there's things I know I don't know, and the examples are I don't know how to fly a plane, I don't know how to do brain surgery. There's things I know I don't know, but there's so much more I don't know. I don't know. And a lot of times, Stanley, you and I have talked about this a lot of times, is that when we get into this, like, I don't even want to call it a comfort zone, but I almost want to call it like a discomfort zone of comfort,
Yeah.
where like we're comfortable in this, but we're actually uncomfortable. So we're experiencing pain, but we think that's the way it's supposed to be. I'm experiencing gum recession, but I think that's just the way it is. And so the only thing available to me is gum surgery, right? Like there are our brains, because there are people who we trust, dentists, doctors, parents, and like fill in the gap of who it is you trust for advice, financial experts, right? Like they give us advice and we assume that it's correct. I assume that if I've asked the dentist, this is one of my examples. I have asked the dentist every time I go to the dentist what I can do about my gum recession.
Right.
And every time I go to the dentist, they're like gum surgery. And so
Right.
I'm like, well, okay, like I'm not that old. I don't want to lose all of my teeth. So if I can do the surgery and I can afford the surgery, then like maybe that's just what I should do, blah, blah, blah. And then I met Stanley and he was like, oh, you could try putting hydrogen peroxide in your water pick. And I was like, okay, well, that's a lot less invasive, a lot more accessible and cost effective than gum surgery. So let's explore that before we do that. And like, now I don't have to go for gum surgery, and it's crazy. And I've told multiple people that story. And the thing is that I don't know what I don't know. Until someone tells me what I don't
Right.
know. But also, there's a really important piece of that that's like you have to be willing to take the advice and try it. And I mean, I'm a big fan of authenticity, and some things work for some people and they don't work for all people. But unless we're brave enough to try it, unless we have that growth mindset of, oh, okay, well, that's something I could try. Let's try it and see what happens. And try it for long enough so that it can actually have an impact, because doing that once with your water pick probably isn't going to have a huge impact on your gums. But if you do it over and over, then you can actually see results. And it's interesting to me because it's almost like the activity, like the task isn't the thing that's uncomfortable. It's not the thing that gets us out of our comfort zone. It's our ability to keep probing and asking and being curious. Like, this can't be the only option. Like, there's no way that gum surgery that's $900 per tooth is the only option here. It can't be.
Right. Right. So, I'm going to backtrack on that because I love that story. And the excitement that you shared with me when you told me your results. Okay. So the ability to create a compelling future and a stronger future comes to a place where you're vulnerable. And I remember what I was sharing with you about that is that our oral health, our oral hygiene has so much more to do with our brain health. And as a brain health coach, I am become so aware of the things that I didn't know. And that's by this self-development. It's by growing and understanding the things that I had no idea about. And, you know, I asked the same question. Why didn't my dentist tell me this? Or why didn't my doctor tell me this? And it's no fault to the doctor, to the medical world, with respect. What I'm saying is that they only know what they only are trained to know. And so therefore they convey the message that the most or the majority of that profession, whatever it is, whether it's a teacher or whether it is a medical doctor or a lawyer, and they share that information because it's their normal exposure, it's their normal expression. And here you were talking about, well, gosh, you know, I have this gum thing, and you have a pretty smile, you've got pretty teeth, and it's like you wouldn't know it, but see, there's a state of vulnerability that comes in.
Mhm.
And that state of vulnerability is, what do I want? What do I want that's different? And how would I be willing to expose that to somebody without judgment? And I want to say the majority of that judgment comes from within. And the only way that we can create a stronger future is to allow that judgment to reside and to be eliminated.
Mm.
Okay. And you took the initiative to say, hey, you know what? I've got this gum thing. And I'm like, okay, so I attended a 5-day event, and one of them was with a doctor, and he's a dentist out of the Woodlands in Texas. Now, why do I remember that from 3 years ago? Because my dad lives not far from the Woodlands in Texas. So now I've got this correlation, I've got this community of, hey, you're from Ohio, I'm from Ohio, where are you from? Okay, I have a gum issue, I had gum health issues. You have gum health? My gosh. Now, what did you do? Well, I got surgery. Oh, I didn't. What did I do? Well, I'm on the phone with this coach, and he's talking about, I mean, he's a posture coach and a brain health coach, and he's telling me put 2 ounces of hydrogen peroxide in 14 ounces of water in your water pick. Turn it up as high as you can without making your gums bleed, and it will create more gum health than anything else. Now, when I told my dentist that I use a water pick, she said, do you floss? And I said, yeah, I floss and I use a water pick. She goes, you use a water pick? She goes, I love you. And I go, man, if that's all it takes to get love, what else can I do? I
The
mean,
water pick sales are going to go like,
I'm buying water picks, right? I got a stock of them. Okay. So the idea behind that is that not only did you take the information, but you implemented that information. And then it was a month and a half later, and you come back and you say, hey, I got to tell you, that little tip saved me a bunch of money and the inconvenience of the surgery.
yeah, which was like a way bigger component for me because, well, like I would have needed 3 surgeries that each cost anywhere between $900 and $1,100. And it's a 3-month recovery time. Do you guys know how much I talk? Like this is not a thing. It's not a thing that's available to me. So these are, and I think it's also only in those scenarios where we're looking at what someone's presented to us as the option. And I mean, to me, I was just like, I went for the assessment. The doctor seems great. The nurses there are nice. They were really great in terms of follow-up. Like the customer service was really good. I'm sure they do a wonderful job. But I was there and I was just like, this can't be right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it should be the only option. And it was only because I actually mentioned that in passing to Stanley. Not because I thought Stanley would know something about that, but because I mentioned it in passing. And then he was like, oh, you could try this. And I was like, oh, really? I'm going to try that because I really don't want to have this gum surgery. And now I don't need it. And I think that's that's the thing. And this is also the thing about when we were if you guys have been if you know me or you know Stanley, you'll know that we've been like playing with shows and concepts and things like that on LinkedIn. And we had this conversation the other day about like, what does it actually take to create a stronger future? Because I could do strength training, I can go to a dietitian, I can go to the dentist, I can like, but I can look at my financial health. Like a stronger future includes so many of these things. And now we have people, and again, I don't know about you, Stanley, but I think maybe because I'm like a community person, constantly people are like, I have a community for this, I have a community for this. And I can't participate. I can maybe participate in 3 communities before I don't have time to be that diversified. And so if my goal is to create my strongest future possible, what could that look like in terms of just like surrounding yourself with other people who have different knowledge than you, who are also trying to create their version of the strongest future? And our theory is that this is the type of collision that you get, right? You're in conversation and then randomly someone will know something that is supremely helpful for you. And you just be like, oh, great.
Exactly. And that's the beauty behind coaching. And this is what I do with my clients is that, and I have other coaches that will ask me, what is the curriculum that you bring to your clients? And I say, I bring their curriculum. Because here's the thing. If you're in a group picture and there's 100 people, who's the first person that you look for?
You look for yourself.
Yeah, not your best friend. You're looking for you. You want to see how you look in that picture. And so when I'm working with my clients and they want to see their picture, basically, they want a picture of their life that they design, that they create, and that they can live out in a practical, sensible, simple way. Okay? A practical, sensible, simple way. Complexity is the enemy of execution. And so therefore, it is, I ask people, what is it that you want? So let's put that in the center. And I don't want to go too deep into this, but what we want to do is we want to create this kind of mind map, not a to-do list, but a kind of a mind map, a central idea. And the human need, one of the human needs is connection. And you can be connected to the world. And we've heard about this, that people are connected with so many people, but internally, intrinsically, they are not intrinsically motivated. They are motivated by the masses, but not intrinsically, internally motivated. And therefore, they live a very desperate life. And nobody knows. I mean, when we look at somebody like Robin Williams, who could make everyone laugh, but he couldn't make himself laugh. And so when we understand, what is the future that we want to create? And if we're trying to do it in the same mindset that created the reality that we're living, then it's hard to create a compelling, stronger future. And it's having a coach, it's having someone from the outside to look inside and say, what is it that wakes you up in the morning? Okay. What gets you out of bed? And if you say nothing, I hate waking up. And so you go in and you ask a deeper question. Well, what if you could love waking up? What would that look like? And that's where the future comes in. And you begin to develop that. And you share that vulnerability. I mean, how many people, just real quickly, how many people did you go and tell, I got this gum thing and I'm going to have gum disease, gum surgery? How many people did you honestly go and share that with?
I actually think I told you about it before I told my dad about it.
Okay. So there's the beauty of vulnerability. And it was.
But I would actually say that's the benefit of community. And so like what everyone who's watching doesn't know is like the journey of Tracy and Stanley's relationship. And it's been client here, client here. We went to a similar, we went to an event where we connected and then we had a conversation about this. And then we have conversations about like all the things. And I also think I don't know why I've been thinking about this today, is that like how often are we creating permission for that type of relationship to happen because we met at an event that neither of us were hosting and had a conversation and let it go from there. And I think that's one of the things I love so much about the relationship that we've built, but also the possibilities for community, is that if we go into relationship building with a requirement, right? This person needs to get me a job, or this person needs to be a client, or this person needs to serve me in some way, then we already have this like really rigid framework in the value exchange that can happen between two people. And on the day I met Stanley, even if we don't include the first day and we just go to like the first time we had a one-on-one, if you would have told me that, well, oh, he could give you advice on oral health, I would be like, oh, that's cool.
Right.
And like maybe not have enough of a relationship to actually reveal. I actually feel like at some point I revealed that in like a moment of frustration or a moment of weakness. And then you're like, oh, I can help with that. And that's because we allow relationships to exist.
Right.
Whether that's like a personal relationship or a business relationship or however you want to look at it, but there's so much value that humans can exchange with each other. And when we look at it, even if we just look at it as like, oh, you're my coach, this is the what I'm supposed to get from you. This is a one-way trade. Like, oh, I always say this, like, I only coach people that I think I can learn from because then I can coach you in something and then I get to learn something too. And then there's this wonderful value exchange that happens between people. And there, I don't know, this is something that is just like sitting very heavily for me in like the last 24 hours and a couple of different experiences, is that yeah, we can go into a conversation or a potential relationship and be like, I don't like conversations. I don't like people. People aren't interesting. I want to fix a problem. I don't want to have a conversation. Like, if that was my perspective on the gum surgery piece, I would have had gum surgery. If I wanted to fix my problem the fastest way,
Right.
I would have had the gum surgery. And I would have paid a lot more money and I would have been a lot more uncomfortable and it would have impacted a lot of other areas of my life in a more substantial way. But I explored. I asked questions. I didn't try to jump to the answer so that I have an answer today.
Yeah. And let me preface, I am not a dentist. I did not go to dentistry school.
And nor, this is also the important thing, because like it, I also have this, I use this example all the time. I dislocated my finger once in a basketball game. Pretty common for basketball. I got jammed, my finger got dislocated. And so I was like, oh, I need to go to the hospital to have my finger reset. There was a lady on the other team that was like, I can set that for you. And I was like, oh, are you a doctor? And she was like, no. I'm going to go have a doctor set my finger, right? Because I want to maintain. I think that sounds like an intelligent decision to make. In this scenario, I took that advice knowing that Stanley's not a dentist.
Right.
One, because I trust Stanley. And two, because honestly, I was like, what could this hurt, right? Like, I'm already at the stage where they're telling me I need gum surgery. Like, what could it hurt to give this a try? And so I think that's also an important thing, because while we each have our own zones of genius, right? A lot of people come and ask me about marketing related things. But I also had this wonderful conversation with a lady the other day who's a marketer, and I had full expectation that we were going to have a marketing conversation. And then we had a like hour and a half long conversation about parenting. And you're like, I'm a parent. I can provide value to people from a parenting perspective by sharing what I've learned. Not in that it's like the right way to do it or anything like that, but that this is my experience and that might be helpful to you. And again, when we keep our focus so narrow on how a person can help us and be like, only a dentist can help me with oral hygiene, then we're missing out on really big opportunities.
Yeah. I love the dentist that I go to now. They actually scheduled me at the end of a day because they wanted to pick my brain. And and here again, I'm not a dentist, but I was interested in how can I create a better future mentally, emotionally, physically, chemically better for myself without the intervention that is complicated. So understanding, that and I want to be careful of what I say, but there is a profession that is pharmaceutical driven. Okay. And I am not. I'm going to challenge the narrative. And this is where I live. I live in this challenge the narrative. I ask the question, why? And when somebody says that's just because, that's what makes me want to ask the question, why more? And I want to challenge that narrative. And I want to challenge all of our listeners in the respect that, hey, a simple conversation about being vulnerable and asking even an unexpected person or somebody that has the degree may come up with an answer because of their exposure. And this is what I do as a coach, is that I don't just focus on one area. I focus on multiple areas because the human body is so multifaceted. So when we have an appreciation for the different elements and the different places of our body and our mind and our soul and our heart health, all of these areas, asking a question, being vulnerable, and saying, hey, what else could I learn? And there's so much that I want to cover. But in respect to our listeners, I said that at 11:30 we were going to be jumping. Please check out the Zoom link. If you can't, just write this down and type it into your search bar. Join us on the Zoom call. This is an interactive. I'm going to ask for your cameras to be on. And hey, make a comment, put a comment. I know this is going to YouTube. It's going to Facebook and LinkedIn. Put a comment in the chat. I'd love to continue this conversation and talk about what is of value to you. What is it that you want? What is it that there's a question of a perplexing question in your mind? And it may be, how do I discover gold in the ground? I don't know, but I'll find somebody that can give you the answer. Okay. So we're going to join this again next week. There are so many different subtopics that we will cover, and I'm excited about where this is going. And just know that, hey, when you are faced with obstacles, that is just a setup for the next opportunity. I promise you. And you can ask any multiple of my clients, they'll tell you the same thing. They wouldn't have believed it when I said it. And then it comes to fruition. So join us on Zoom.
Yes, we're excited to see you over there. Come share. The whole point of the deep dive parts of these sessions, you guys, is so what does a stronger future look like for you? And what is a gap for you that you see right now in reaching your stronger future? And let's talk about it. And if you ever want to come on live and talk about it with Stanley, that is available to you too.
Yes,
but
yes,
we'll start
absolutely.
with the Zoom.
I invite that conversation with anyone. Yes. So DM me and we'll see you over on the Zoom.
We will.
Have a fantastic day.